start record, and I will introduce myself again. Okay. Hello everybody, welcome to Live with Prima for National or International Scrapbook Day. If you haven't been tuning in, you're missing out on so much because it's been so fun so far. We've had classes by Delana and Sharon so far, and my little class is going to be on this altered box. Let me turn on my extra lamp. I figured it was daytime and I wouldn't really need it, but I think we might need a little bit more light. So this is what we're going to be working on, which really the focus here is going to be on these relics and artifacts. And I know the hearts get used a lot, but that's just because they're super amazing. Let me get my camera to focus. It's kind of hard to hone in on some of these details. Let me move it closer and then pull back a little and see if that'll work. It's really not wanting to focus on it. Let me move my mouse pad and see if that helps any at all. Okay, so we're going to do some really fun techniques here using beeswax, and you can also use the sculpture medium if you don't have beeswax. So you've got two options. And then for one of these little pendant drops over here, I'm just going to cover that with mica flakes. That's one of my go-to techniques, is just putting micro beads and mica flakes on them. It's really fun. And then like I said, if I have time when we're done, I'm going to show you some extra techniques using like the rust paste and the glitters and some of that foil, which Sharon just showed like a gazillion ways to use the foil. It was so fun. So let me look at the chat real quick and see who's logging on, because I do have a little bit of time. This is a smaller project, so I don't feel like I'll be too rushed here. Hello everyone. Thank you so much for coming. I see Robbie and let's see, Janelle, Kim, Heather from Thicket Works. Thank you so much for coming. If I miss your name, I'm just going to say hi to everybody. That way I don't miss anyone. Hello, Lindsay. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. And then if we have time left over, we will have some fun playing around with some extra techniques. So yeah, I had this beeswax laying around for the longest time, and I decided it was time to use it. One announcement really quickly. I know there's been a little bit of confusion on what all is going on because it's just a jam-packed day full of fun stuff. Prima really has like outdone themselves on this. So there's a full schedule on the blog, also on the Facebook page. But basically there's going to be, you know, giveaways all day. There's going to be different shows. We're going to have different hostesses. There's Twitter parties, there's Pinterest parties, there's tons of ways to win these beautiful giveaways that Prima is being so generous with. So just check out the blog, and it's got the full schedule lineup there. The next show, really quickly, let me get my mouse because I don't want to quote the wrong one, because there is so much going on I can't even remember myself. So the next class is going to be Robbie, and I will be hostessing that during that time. I'm not sure who's modding for her, but I will be the hostess for that time slot. So it's Robbie next, then we've got the IOD gals, and then Carrie, and then Tiffany will be wrapping up the night tonight. So basically there's like 2-hour blocks of Live with Prima classes, and then Pinterest parties, Twitter parties, all of that good stuff. Okay? So let me move my mouse pad out of the way and my iPad, and we will get started. Okay, so I ordered a bunch of these little alphabet boxes because I have an idea, which I'm in the process of working on, but I'm not quite done with it yet. So I love them so much. The box itself I didn't even want to cover up. It's just the alphabet cards. I have it upside down there. So the front has the little ace and the back has the king. So whichever side you prefer to alter, you can, you know. The item number for this is 584283. I've got this one still in the packaging. So let me grab my scissors really quickly and open it up. And also, before I forget to mention it, I have my own personal giveaway for this Ustream too. So if you're here for this Ustream, all you've got to do, we figured the simplest way would be just to send everybody over to my blog. And if you just leave a comment on the blog, you are entered to win, and I will announce the winner tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon, at some point in that time. I will show you what I'm giving away really quickly, just so you guys know. I'm going to give away just a couple of flower packs just because, I mean, it is Prima. So this is from Epiphany. This is from the Coffee Break collection, I think. I might throw a couple more flower packs in there. I've got the same items that I'm using on today's project in here. I'm going to be using this pendant, or this pendant right here from the Chandelier pendants, and then the Flaming Heart, which is just amazing. I'm going to give you all these two packages right here. And then to color them, I'm going to give one of the new Artisan powders, which I love so much. This one's called Parthenae, I think it is. It's beautiful. I'm also going to give away one of the art stones from Finnabair from this last release, and an art alchemy paint. This one is the metallic and silver. So you can color your, your relics up with these. So that is my giveaway. All you got to do is hop over to the blog, leave a comment, and I'm going to go to random.org and enter it that way, and just pick a random winner. So all you got to do is go there and comment, and you're in to win. Okay. I should have got something to drink beforehand. Alright, so what we're going to do is just open up our box and take these beautiful alphabet cards out. These are so fun. I really hope y'all like what I'm making with these right now. It was inspired by another lady, so I'm going to give her full credit when the project's up. But it's super fun, okay? So that's what comes in there. And I did take the Q and the H out because the whole theme for this was Queen of Hearts. I wanted to make it more Queen of Heart-esque, but I ended up just kind of going, sometimes you have an idea for a project and sometimes it just doesn't quite turn out the way you envisioned, so I just went with it. Okay, so I'm going to set those to the side. And our very first step is going to be to clear gesso the box. I always start out with clear gesso. It's just a staple for me. I know if I put the clear gesso on there, I am good to go. I can add mediums, I can do whatever I want to it, and I know that the paper's protected. Nothing's gonna buckle or, come off. So we're just gonna go around the whole box with some of the clear gesso from the Art Basics line. And the item number is 961466. And I am just putting a liberal coat on here. Just kind of going back and forth. I don't like to have brush strokes on projects, but with the clear gesso, you really can't tell when you're done. For some reason, I just don't like to see brush strokes. I don't know why. I'm really weird like that. I should probably use sponges or something, but I'm going to stick with the brushes. These are the Finnabair brushes, which I don't have a link right now. I mean a SKU number, because I use these on everything. I haven't had them in the packaging in a while because they are just a staple. They're the only brushes I use now. And I thought I had ruined quite a few because I tend to put them in like the 3D matte gel and paints and stuff, and I always forget to wash them. So what I did is I got a really big mason jar and I filled it up with soapy water, and now I just dump them in there, and whenever I feel like it, I can go in and get them out and finish cleaning them. So it saves them. It keeps them wet, basically. I'm getting the side here, and I love that it looks like book paper. I really love that. It just looks really cool. Looks like the inside of a book. So these little, I love that Prima packaging can be reused in so many ways. They go out of their way to make sure that everything is done so well. So even the packaging that these come in is like an item to be altered all on its own. Oh, I should do a disclaimer really quickly, y'all, and this may pose a problem. I think I have found a way to bypass it. But the heat tool that I usually use, if you've ever tuned into my shows, it's like a really obnoxious paint stripper heating tool, which is huge, and I cannot find it. When I was working on my room redo, we were doing some staining and stuff outside, and that was the last time I saw it, and I think my honey snatched it back up, and I've looked everywhere in the shop and I cannot find it. So then I broke out my old Ranger heat tool this morning, and it was working fine, and then all of a sudden it just quit, and I do not know why. So we are going to use, and let me plug it in really quickly before I forget, for the wax part I'm going to use a house iron. Now I do not iron at all, and this is in my craft room for crafting. If you have one of those little irons, I've seen them at Michael's and other places, that would be so perfect for this. But a heat tool ideally is what I wanted to use because it works very, very well. All right, making sure that's plugged in before I forget. Okay, so I'm going to set this aside to dry, and then we will start adding our fun color background to it. Okay, and I'm just going to set it up like that. I don't want, if you set it flat with that gesso dry, it's going to kind of stick and it might pull up some of your paper. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start right on one of our relics and artifacts. We're going to start on the chandelier pendant piece over here because we're covering it with the Mulberry Mica flakes, which are my favorite Mica flakes. It just looks so pretty. And you can see here some of them have kind of rubbed off, so I have some spots to touch up, but I prefer to let it fully dry before I go in and touch up any other spot. So that's the one we're going to do really quickly. Let me grab my chandelier pendants. Okay, and the item number for these are 941673. They have a couple of different sets of the chandelier pendants. This is the chandelier pendants number 2. Oh yeah, Heather, it's definitely a must. I've so got to get my own crafting, like a little mini crafting iron, of course for crafting only, but I really want one of those little mini ones so badly. They are just adorable. I love them so much. Okay, so we're not going to use this part right here, so I'm going to go ahead and snip it off with my scissors. Okay, but we're going to leave this part on here because I use this to hold. That way while I'm adding my mediums and my mica flakes, that I have something to grip. Okay, so I'm going to grab my sculpture medium. This is my favorite thing to use. I used to use the 3D gloss gel, the 3D matte gel and the soft gloss gel to do this technique, but since this has came out, this is my go-to. I love this stuff so much. Ideally, of course, it is for fabrics and stiffening those up in papers, but it has so many different uses. You do not have to stick to just that, okay? So the item number for this is the clear one. It comes in clear and beige, I do believe. And the item number for this is 963019. Okay, so we're going to grab that. I'm going to grab a little tray that I use to catch my excess mica flakes. I saw a little glob of gesso over there, so I'm just smoothing that out. Okay, let me grab my mica flakes. This is my favorite color, and the mica flakes, it's the Mulberry, and it is so pretty. These are so soft, so pretty. I absolutely love them. And what I do with my mica flakes, and this is just my preference, I like them to be a little smaller than they come. I usually like to stick my fingers in there and kind of break apart, you know, just get a little bit in your hand at a time and just kind of break them apart a little bit, just like this. Just get a little bit, just kind of, you know, moving it around and breaking them into a little bit of a smaller piece, and I find that that fits better on items like this. Okay, so we're going to take our sculpture medium, and I don't want to put too much. This pendant, this particular set, I don't know if y'all can tell on camera, but it has a lot of facets to it. So it's got like 1, 2, 3, 4 layers of facets on there, so it looks really beautiful. Okay, so we are going to use just a little bit, not too much. We don't want it oozing off the side. If you've ever used glossy accents, I pretty much use this like I do glossy accents. It's a great adhesive, and it's perfect for filling in areas and adding dimension. It doesn't have to be used just to stiffen up your fabrics and stuff. So I use my finger and I just go around and make sure everything is covered and that no areas have so much on there that it's going to be dripping down, because that is not what you want. You don't want to make a big old mess out of it. So I'm just patting around like this. And I keep these rags. I cut up a couple of my older towels, like older beach towels, into rags because I realized how many paper towels I was going through. So I try to use those as often as I can. Okay, once you feel like it's even on there, you want it nice and even. I'm just going to start, let me hold that up to the camera in case you can't see it. So you can see that it's wet, but okay. And oh, a melting pot, that would be perfect, Kim. I do not have one of those, and I want one so badly. If I had one of those, I could just dip my relics and artifacts in there and right back out. That is perfect. I might go out to Michael's and grab one of those when I grab my heat tool, because I have to go get one ASAP. And then, of course, as soon as I buy one, my, the other one will be found. That other one was so unsightly though. If you've seen my shows, everybody's like, what are you using? Like, that thing is gigantic. I mean, it really is. It's just huge and unsightly, but it works so fast that I've grown accustomed to using it. Okay, so while this is still wet and forming, I'm going to go ahead and add just a tidbit more to some of these areas. This pretty much flows out on its own. You don't have to give much of a squeeze to it. So I'm just kind of dabbing a little bit here and there where I have blank spots. But the beauty of this is you can go in when it's all done and add more. But I usually let it dry all the way first before I do that, especially with micro beads, because you don't want any really uneven spots. Okay, so I'm just adding a little bit more. And then I'm going to do one more layer, and we're going to set this to the side so that it can dry. And for some reason, I always dump the entire thing. I don't know why. My honey was making fun of me the other day. He's like, did you really need to pour the whole thing out? Yep, I guess so. Because I always do that. You can also go down in there and just pick up extras. And if you see a spot that is blank. Okay, so right now it doesn't look perfect. But as it dries and we start kind of fixing all of these raised up flakes, it will look beautiful. And I just love this technique. I think it looks really pretty. Whether you're using this or micro beads or the, let me grab them. I thought I had them out over here. Yeah, I just showed y'all in the giveaway. These art stones, they look really well on these as well. And the really fun thing about using this is you can go in with like mediums and color it afterwards. So hopefully we'll have time to get to that. Alright, I'm going to set this piece to the side over here to dry. And then we're going to dump this back in there. Let me try to check up with the chat. Okay, and I can smell that iron from over there. I will show you guys a funny solution that Chris told me to use for the lack of the heat tool. I was like, honey, this is ridiculous. Wait till you see what he gave me. He's like, this will work. I'm like, yeah, and everybody that's watching the show, I'm sure, will have one of these. This is what he told me to use, y'all. And he brought this in all seriousness. It's like a blowtorch. You light this and turn the gas on, and it's blowtorch. Like, this is ridiculous. I cannot use this. Nobody has access to those, so that would just be completely impractical. But anyway, that's what he wanted me to use. Okay, so I'm going to take the heart out from this ancient heart set. And both of these will be in the giveaway. Both packages that I'm using here, the exact same ones. There are so many relics and artifacts. I mean, oh, I just love these so much. And I love how well they take mediums. They take anything very well. Okay, so to color this one, the first thing I'm going to do is add a layer of white gesso, just because I need this one to be really kind of gritty. I don't want this one to be very smooth. This heart has a very smooth texture. And even though they do take mediums very well, this is a white gesso, which is fine because it's going to get covered up anyway. I'm just going in with white gesso, just making it have some extra grit, because I think the beeswax sticks a little better. I'm no professional with beeswax. If you've used it before and I'm saying something completely contradictory, I'm sorry, but this is just what I was using it with, and it tended to work out well for me, so from my experience anyway. Okay, so just a really quick coat of the heavy gesso. And then I'm going to go straight to the beeswax, which is really, actually, no, I'm not. I'm totally messing up, y'all. No, I'm not. We're going to let that dry for a second, and then we're going to go in with our coloring. And then we're going to do our beeswax on top of that. And then we're going to do more color on top of that. So we're doing kind of like a process here. I wonder if I can set this up on something so that way you all can see it a little bit better. I don't know if that helps or not. Okay. Fish scales. Wonder if I can use on my Julie Nutting mermaid doll. That would be really cool. Oh man, you guys do such amazing work with those Julie Nutting dolls. I can't do it. I so admire everything y'all do. So I'm using alcohol ink. This is one of my favorite things to use. I love it. And I'm just randomly adding it, and then I'm spritzing it like that. And I'm going to go in with my rag and just kind of blot off the excess. So I don't want full coverage, but I want, you know, half of the heart to be covered up with it. So let me get the back of this because it tends to seep under there and get really wet and messy. Okay, so we're going to set that like there, like that. And the alcohol ink dries really, really quickly, so you don't really have to worry about that. We're going to use the Color Bloom spray in Cotton Candy. This is from the Sparkling Pastel set. This is my favorite pink color. I really, really love it. Tiffany, I cannot wait for your show. I love, love, love what you came up with. Really, really beautiful. Okay, so I'm just using the nozzle to go into those white areas where I didn't put the alcohol ink. And you can just kind of spread it around with the nozzle, and that is good enough for me. So I do not have a heat tool, like I said, so it's going to be kind of hard to dry these in between layers. So work with me, y'all, if things take a little bit longer. I'm going to try to skip around and come back to it. That way it has time to dry all the way. You know what? This is a very sheer Color Bloom spray. It's not super opaque like some of them are. So I'm just going to shake it up really well and just spray right on top of that brown, just like that. I feel like I just wasted a good bit. I don't like to do that, but I wanted to make sure all of the white was covered up. Always wipe the underneath, because that way you don't have a big buildup of stuff and it's not going to stick to anything. Okay, so this is what we have so far. Pretty plain, nothing to it really. And I'm going to let that dry to the side for just a second. And we're going to go ahead and start using our beeswax. Let me make sure my gesso is dry all the way across, and it is. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is get our beeswax. Now I got this from Michael's. It's eluding me. There we go. These are beeswax from the Melt Art. They do go with the melting pot. I think someone mentioned that, but I love, love, love using this beeswax. So the first thing I do is just take it out, and it comes in these little pebble forms. If you do not have this beeswax, y'all, and you just have no interest in getting any, you can use either like glossy accents, which wouldn't work quite as well, but the sculpture medium does work well. You could use this instead. But the beeswax is really fun, and I feel like I've done so many of the same techniques on Live with Prima using the same product, so I kind of wanted to break out and do something different. We're even going to burn some of the paper on this box because I just really wanted to kind of step out and try something new. These are pretty, I don't know what the word is, they're a little bit sticky, so if you kind of push down there, especially if you're using a heat tool, just kind of push a little hard and they will stick to your surface without you, you know, when you come in with your heat tool, they're not going to blow everywhere, which I had problems with in the past. So these are pretty sticky and you don't have to worry about that. Okay, so I added about that much, just kind of all over my box. Okay, we're going to do the front part first. Refilling the Color Bloom sprays. I will let the mod answer that, but yes, you can totally refill them. Trust me, I've done mine several times. I think I'm on the third one on one of mine, and it's still working, and it's a much lighter color, but it's still absolutely beautiful. Okay, so we're going to go in with our iron now, and you can see I've got previous wax on there. You guys, if you don't have a craft iron or you don't want to use an iron at all, use your heat tool. That's what I did on the original project. I used a heat tool, okay? So I'm hoping this is going to be okay. But this works pretty quickly. You're just going to go, you can see it's already starting to melt them and it turns clear. So just rub around. You don't want to stay in one place too long. And I am literally just rubbing around with my iron until I get a nice even coverage there. And I just love the way this wax looks. I think it is so incredibly pretty. Let me let it dry for a second. Okay. Hopefully y'all can see that sheen there. It really is just beautiful. I love it. And when it dries, it creates this kind of opaque thickness to this, which looks gorgeous. I do recommend opening the box every now and then to make sure that you're not sealing it shut. So I'm going to do one more layer on the top part for now. And then as we go, I'll add some more here and there. Okay. So again, I'm just sprinkling a little bit on top of there. This is really fun. I love trying new techniques. I'm no professional when it comes to mixed media, but I just think this is super fun. I like to do things that are fun. It's all about experimenting, so you never know it's going to look really good unless you try it. Okay, so I'm just going around my edges, making sure I don't have any that aren't heated up. Okay, so after 2 coats, you really build up a nice finish on the top of your box. I don't know if y'all can tell on camera, but it's raised up. It's super glossy. It looks really, really cool. You could also use like an ice resin or something to do this with. Anything that would add some dimension to it. And I just prefer the beeswax. All right, we're gonna go on to the side over here. You don't have to use quite as many over here. Let me make sure, just got a message. I want to make sure it's not Robbie or, there we go. Making sure it wasn't Robbie or Sharon telling me I was off camera or something. Alright, so again, I'm just holding on to the front and going all the way across. And one of those little craft irons would so be perfect for this because this is oversized. I don't think I've ever ironed anything in my life as far as clothes go. So how sad is it that I'm ironing, you know, for crafting, but we go around with wrinkled clothes all the time. I'm just not that domestic, I guess. Okay, so the side, we've got 1 layer on there so far. Hopefully it'll show up on camera. Okay. The beeswax I got at my local Michael's. They have it at Hobby Lobby. You can order it online. I've seen it come in different forms though, I will say that. And I really prefer these little pellets. I really like them because they are sticky. And I typically use my heat gun. And I don't want them blowing everywhere. Like, that's no good. It's not going to work. Alright, so I'm rubbing back over it. Again, and it kind of starts dripping down the iron, and I just usually kind of go on one edge and get it back on there and let it run around. Okay, and it's getting on the back too, which is fine with me. I'm just going to make sure it's spread evenly, and I'm sure by the end of the show I will burn myself really badly, so I'm prepared for it. Alright, and now back on the front you can see that it's really starting to dry. Right here there's a little glob. I don't know if y'all can see that. That doesn't bother me, but if it does, you can kind of go in and just move that around a little bit. That just means there was a little bit too much wax there, so it's not going to look clear. So just, you know, move it around a little bit with your heat tool or your iron, whatever it is you may be using. Alright, I'm going to make sure the back is dry before I set it down. And then we can go in with some of our mediums and color this up. So I really love how hazy and raised up this makes this look. It's really cool to me. Okay, so now we're going to start coloring it. And I will say the really cool thing about this is when you put beeswax on something, your mediums, your color bloom sprays, your artisan powders, alcohol inks, basically anything that you typically use is going to react differently on top of the beeswax, which is really cool to me. It was really fun playing around. Alcohol inks notoriously move around a lot, but on this beeswax they really don't. They kind of stay still. Okay, so I'm going to just go ahead and start out with some of the alcohol ink. I am using, they don't say the colors on here anymore. Yes, they do. Latte. Okay, maybe I wasn't looking in the right spot. I love alcohol inks. It's just one of my all-time favorite items. Let me make sure that this is dry, and it is. Alright, so I'm going to spritz this with water pretty much all over. And I don't know if you can tell, but instead of spreading out, this water is literally sitting on top of there like little droplets. So the wax really creates like a resist. So it's pretty cool. It's doing something completely different than it would typically do. So what I do is I take my alcohol ink, and I got way too big of a drop right there. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of tilt it and just kind of hit it with my fingers and just let it kind of do what it wants to do. I'm not going to be particular here, and I don't want huge drops either. I just want some little drops of alcohol ink. And it reacts so differently when you have the wax on there. Alright, so I'm kind of spritzing each little area like that. So some of them will be lighter, some will be darker. And that's the effect we're going for. You can start blotting up the excess water, and the alcohol ink is already on there. So you're good to go. So the places that don't have a lot of water are going to be a little darker. And you can kind of go in and move it around as you want. Okay. So we're going to do that one more time with the alcohol ink. But so far, this is what we've got going on. Looks really pretty. Janelle, what do you mean you're hanging out with negative people? I can't stand that I can't keep up with the chat because every time I look up, y'all are cracking me up. I liked the last show, Sharon's show. I got to do the chat. I got to talk with everybody. And I was just gabbing away. Okay, so I'm doing it again. And I don't even know why I'm adding alcohol ink to this middle area because it's going to get covered up. So if you want to save your product, just skip putting it in the areas you know will be covered up. Okay, blotting up the excess water. And I don't want to cover up my A. I really want those to show. So I'm just going to kind of wipe that off. Okay, I think maybe one more time and we're good to go. I'm going to go ahead and just touch down where I want the touchdown, like we're playing football here. Touchdown with the tip of this where I want this to go. Oh, I love my lingo, the stuff I say on live with Prima, I swear. But last few streams, Sharon was saying some pretty funny stuff too, so I'm not alone here. She was saying it's on like Donkey Kong and stuff, so I am not alone with my weird hip sayings. Okay. So I wet it once again. I'm just going to go in with the tip of my rag and kind of pick up some of that excess. And I like that some areas look darker than others. That is completely fine with me. I love that. Okay. So we're going to do that. Alright. So that's what we've got so far. And that's one color of alcohol ink, but you're getting like 3 different shades out of it by adding water. Okay. So that's what we've got so far. Let me make sure my area is clean as I keep going. Alright, now we're going to go in with the pink, the cotton candy again. Are we talking about cat hoarding? If you guys have seen that show, oh my goodness, that is crazy. These people have like 70 cats. It's sad because, I don't know. I'm kind of torn between who I feel bad for. I'm just taking the nozzle out and flicking this on there. I love animals. If it was up to me, we would have like 100, I swear. I love animals. Alright, so I'm just splattering these on there. I'm not going for full coverage anywhere. Just splatting it on there. Okay. And you can also dab here and get, you know, a lighter shade in certain areas. I'm not adding water to the color bloom because I want it to stay, but you get such cool results on top of the beeswax. It just looks totally different than it does when you're, you know, you just have a gessoed surface. I'll kind of spread it around in some areas and make some more pink. This is a Queen of Hearts box, so we need some pink. Well, we really need red, but I'm not big on using red. Alright, I'm going to flip it to the side and hope that none of that runs. And I'm going to start flicking over here the same way I did on the front. Can't neglect the side, which I tend to forget sometimes until the end and have to add it all at once. Alright, I'm just making some bigger areas of pink. And I wanted to lace the side of this up like corset style, but that didn't quite work out. Okay, let me do the alcohol ink on this side before I forget. 3 dogs, Robbie? That's fine. I have two dogs. And I used to have a cat, so nothing wrong with that. I'm going to add one more spray to this relic while it's over here. It needs a little bit more color. So while we're working on the other thing, I will go ahead and keep adding color to this because I don't have my heat tool, so I'm having to wait for it to dry. which is so weird. If anyone doesn't use a heat tool, I don't know how you get by, because I am so impatient. I know sometimes I read people say, you know, you gotta let it dry overnight, and that is so hard for me. If I'm using a crackle paste, I'll do that, but other than that, I can't. Alright, so I'm adding those little water droplets, and again, it's beating up on there instead of spreading around, which I love. And I'm just going to add some alcohol ink because I forgot to do my side. Robbie, you let me forget to do my side. I'm going to blame you for it. That's funny. Oh, you have a poodle, Barbara? That's adorable. I used to make fun of people who had small dogs, like little lap dogs, because we've always had like a bigger dog. And then I'm completely hooked now. I have a Shih Tzu poodle mix, miniature Shih Tzu. I don't know. He's one of those fancy dogs with those papers that really mean nothing to me because I love my dog and I could really care less. But apparently he's pretty fancy. But he's adorable. And now everything I used to make fun of people for, like, I'm doing it. I totally love my little lap dog. And I'll never, ever go back. Like, I'm hooked. He's so rewarding. He's like a little baby to me. Okay, I'm blotting up some of that pink. All right, here's what we have so far. And the pink is not dry, but that's fine. Okay, now we are going to break out those new Artisan powders. If you guys have not gotten your hands on these yet, you're really missing out because they're super, super fun. I love using these. I'm using 2 colors of the Artisan powder. This one is, I'm not going to attempt to pronounce it, Vasaru. I don't know. Frank is really good at naming these super fancy names, but I don't know how to say them. Alright, so I'm just dipping a little bit out onto my craft mat. This is like a black color, basically. So I'm dipping it out on my craft mat. And then the same thing with the I'm not even going to try. The item number is 991203. La Chapellerie. I don't know. I can't say it. But this is that really pretty rusty brown color, which I love. And again, I think I covered that up. There we go. I'm just dipping this out. Okay. I'm going to grab a couple of paint brushes. This one I'm going to dry brush on to like the edges and stuff, like this. And it looks really cool. I can't really dry brush when I'm going on to wet mediums. What was I thinking there? I'm going to have to wait to do that at the end. But I'm going to dry brush the brown one on just to distress areas. I can go into this area. So I'm going to go into all my corners and just kind of rust things up a bit. Make them look a little more rusty and antiqued. I'm going to go on these edges and just kind of pull it downward. So I'm going to do this all over, and this looks so pretty again on top of that beeswax. It really creates a cool effect. Okay, make sure that's dry before I add it. And these powders are so magical. They stay by themselves. You don't need a fixative. They don't rub off. I mean, when you first put them on, you can rub it to, you know, kind of blend it and buff it. But once they're on there, they're on. These bad boys are amazing. So I'm mainly focusing on like these little niche areas where the back of the book is and this middle section, because I just felt like it looked too plain. So I'm just going all the way around and buffing it on there. I haven't used any like distressing sort of ink since I've gotten these. I love using this powder to distress my edges. It's super fun. Okay, let's see, MJ. If someone lost an animal, I'm really sorry. I can't keep up with the chat, but I did see someone say sorry. So if anybody did, I'm really sorry. I totally understand your pain. I don't have children, so my dogs literally are like my kids. I mean, they are my babies. And our big one, her name is Jolene. She is about 12 years old, so she's a big dog. And she's getting hip problems and stuff, and it's so sad. Like, I hate to see her, you know, struggling. She used to be able to get in the truck and go for rides, jump in the back, but we have to pick her up now. She can't quite get in there. Okay. Alright, so that's what we have so far. Just randomly adding some to my edges and, you know, kind of blending it in just to add a little bit more depth to the box. Okay. Now we're going to add water to our Artisan powders, and I'm adding just a little bit, not a lot at all. Let me move that out of the way. I wish I could zoom in on this camera, but I can't. Now these are not like mica powders. These are not going to completely break apart and make a, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? A paint, I guess. But they break up enough for you to splatter them and add water. So they still have a little bit of a powder texture, which is cool with me. It looks really cool when it is dry on your project. So I'm just mixing that up like that, and I'm just going to tap again on top of my box, just randomly, like that. And I don't want to do the whole thing, so I'm focusing on the bottom mainly, and then this upper corner up here. Okay, just like that. So you've got those artsy little splashes going on now, and it's super cool. I could dab this immediately and it would still be on there. These powders are super fun. And you can see how little I put there, and it really goes a long way. So I didn't even need to put as much as I did, and I barely put a drop. So these are very pigmented. They stretch a long way. I'm hitting the back of my box too. I don't want to neglect the poor king back there. Whenever I splat things, as you can see, I tend to get everything and make a huge mess. I'm going to invent some sort of box that stops splatting. Like, you can stick it in this box and just do all your little splashes and you don't have to worry about it. Alright, some of the black mixed with this brown, which is fine with me. It'll be like a dark brown color. Alright, so again, I'm going to splat one more time. How many splats are we going to do? A lot. Because I really wanted like an artsy look to this box. Okay. Turning it to the side again. Okay. Alright, that's it for the splats. Let me clean up my little area. And we are going to go back over to our relic and start on it. So far this is what we have. I mean, to me that already looks really pretty. I wouldn't have to do anything else to it. It's weird because any side could be the, I guess the spade goes up. So I guess this is the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to grab the heart piece over here, which I did get some splats on, and that is completely fine. But we need to start adding our wax to it. Now this is where it's going to get tricky because I do not have my heat tool, which is how I originally covered this. So I'm going to have to try to use the iron, and if the iron doesn't work, I have a candle and a lighter, and I'm going to try to use that. Okay, so I'm going to set it up here so you guys can see it closer. Right now, that is all we've done to it. It's just that. Excuse me, y'all. Alright, so I'm going to grab my beeswax one more time, and we're going to do a couple of coats on here. So again, this is sticky, which is great because, I mean, this is on a side which would just roll off if it wasn't sticky. So I'm going to be pretty generous with these beeswax pieces. My hubby is building me a deck today. That is awesome. Is that your Mother's Day gift or just because? Or that's really cool. I kicked Chris out for the day. I was like, you have to go play somewhere. It's like, it's National Scrapbook Day. He's like, National what? It's a huge holiday. Come on, we gotta celebrate it. So Prima is chock full of prizes and fun stuff going on. If you haven't seen the Finnabair blog, she did a really cool feature. She even showed her new craft studio, which is amazing. So hop over to her blog. If you're not on Twitter, you should be, because they're doing giveaways over there. Pinterest, Instagram, the Facebook pages, everything. Alright, so I'm just pressing those on there. I'm kind of really pushing them down as hard as I can because I'm going to be using my iron to do this. Let's, fingers crossed, this works out. If it doesn't, we're going to use the sculpture medium to get the same effect. Might be a little different, but basically the same. Okay, so I'm going to go with my iron. This is a curved surface, so it's going to be tricky. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to let it kind of move around and do its thing a little bit. So you can see I've got that first middle part melted. I'm going to start going on my sides here. I'm going to line it up with the edge of this. That way I have something to hold on to and I'm not burning myself. One of those little baby irons would really be perfect. I've got to go buy one today. Okay. But if you follow on Facebook, there's so many Prima Facebook groups. We've got one for, I think it's called the Relics and Artifacts Tribe, which Sandra is over, and it's amazing. The stuff that her design team comes up with is brilliant. Everybody posts their projects on there. It's just wonderful. I love it so much. You know, you've got the Live with Prima page. There's a DIY home decor group now. If you haven't got your hands on some of the new IOD stuff, oh, you are in for such a treat because it's really, really cool. Alright, so I've got that first layer melted pretty well. It's not too bad. I thought it was going to be much harder to do without a heat tool. So it doesn't look like much now because, you know, we've barely got it covered. But we're going to go ahead and add another layer. Aww, I'm trying to read all these. Bye, Tiffany. Be safe, sweetheart. Some sandbags. Oh no. Yeah, I guess you do live in like a flash flood region. Be careful. Tiffany is so sweet. Alright, let me read Anne Marie's post here really quickly. Aww. Anne Marie, that is wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. Yep, heartwarming, very heartwarming. Alright, pushing these down on here still. If I've missed any questions, I'm sorry, y'all. I know Robbie's on here, though, so she's got my back. Alright, that might be it, I think, for the beeswax for now. I'm going to go ahead and melt one more time. If you have a heat tool, this will be so much easier for you. So, trust me, I'm not doing this out of choice this way. This is just kind of what I was forced to do. I looked everywhere, too, for my... or Chris's heat tool, I guess I should say. Alright, just going all the way around. If I cover it up with the iron, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to make sure I get everything. And it has to be spread really evenly. Otherwise you get these like chunky spots that look a little weird. They're pretty opaque and you can't see through. This is the difficult area up here. And I have now sealed it to this box lid, which is fine. I'll pry it off, but anything that can go wrong on Live with Prima with me tends to go wrong. And I've just accepted that. That's fine. That's just the way it's going to go. Alright, we've got our second layer of wax on there. And I think we are good to go. Let me use my scissors here to pry up my relic. Okay. Alright, I'm going to move that out of the way. Make sure it's dry really quickly before I do that. Then hopefully you guys can see there is like a really thick layer. It's so hard to show on camera, but it really looks super cool on there. It just looks really cool. One fun thing you could do, in fact, let me go ahead and try it really quickly if I have a stamp handy. 1 second. Let's see, I've got a little script stamp over here. If you put like 2 or 3 layers of wax on here, let me throw that one on there. You can stamp into it while it's still wet and make these really cool impressions. I love playing with beeswax. So while it's still wet, this is just a script stamp from those Ingvild Bohm Stampin' Ads. Just a little one. Okay, and I had color on there, which is fine with me, but it left this really cool impression. I don't know if you guys can see the impression or not. Let me see if my camera will pick it up, but I can see it very clear. It's just an impression like engraved into there. So the thicker you build it up, the better. It's going to look really cool. Okay, once that is completely dry, we are going to add a few more colors on top because now we've got that wax surface, which is going to have everything reacting a little bit differently. So I'm going to spritz it again with water. and it's bubbling off of there the same way it did on the box, which is really cool. So I'm going to grab my alcohol ink one more time, and I just kind of like to splat it or just push it right onto the surface. And a lot of this is going to get covered up with the mulberry flakes, so it doesn't have to be perfect by any means. But I just wanted some contrast of colors. Okay, I'm going to squirt one more time. I'm going to try to cover up that center area where I had black on my stamp, because I never clean my stamps. I'm the world's worst. And I can't figure out a way to organize them to save my life either. I'm having real struggles with my stamps. Okay. I hope you ladies are having fun on the chat. I know I did last show. It's really fun to chat on there. I just love it. Oh, thank you, Diva. I really appreciate that. I try not to do the same thing too much. And then I was thinking, well, beeswax, do people have that? Would anybody be interested in using it? But I figured, go for it. Figured today was about playing and trying new things. I mean, Sharon's last class, she showed like, I don't even know how many ideas. It was insane. That girl is a wealth of knowledge. Okay, let me check my time. And I'm an hour in, so I'm going to have to hustle a little bit more. So that's what we have so far. Okay, let me grab my reference one. Okay. Time for the mulberry flakes. Let me go ahead and grab those over here, and I'm going to have to use this to dump them in, so I'm going to have to move that onto something else. I know my camera doesn't zoom down, so it's kind of hard to see. Let me set it on top of these art stones. That way you guys can see what I'm working on a little bit closer. Let me close up my beeswax before I spill it everywhere. Alright, so I'm just going to get a bin that this can kind of spill into. And again, I'm going to use the sculpture medium to adhere the mica flakes down. Item number is 963019. So I'm going to try to mimic the placement of this one. So let's see. I have it coming up from the top. And I did leave the little screw eye pin in, just because I thought it looked pretty. So I'm just kind of randomly adding the sculpture medium. And I love this stuff. It is so amazing. It bonds really well. It gets tacky really quickly, so it's great for adhering things. So I just have it coming down from the top there, just like that. And I'm going to pour my mica flakes right onto there. These mica flakes are so pretty. Let's see if I can not pour the whole thing. I'll just kind of shake it back and forth. Make sure it's on there good. Tap it on the side in case any are sticking. Okay, so that's what we've got so far. I love these mica flakes. It looks like dragon scales to me. It's so cool. Okay, wiping the back off because I've got some sculpture medium kind of seeping over. And that stuff loves to stick to my hands. It doesn't want to come off. Okay, so I'm holding it from the eye pin. That's one of the main reasons I leave them on there all the time, because it really gives you something to grip. Alright, so I'm going to add some to the side here. And I got a little bit too much, so I'm just going to use my finger to kind of get the excess off. And again, going to pour my mulberry flakes on there. You could use the matte gel, you could use any kind of liquid adhesive or something would work perfect for this. It doesn't have to be the sculpture medium, it's just what I have come to prefer. Okay, so we've got those on there like that so far. And I'm going to put them in one more spot down here on the bottom, just like this. Just a small little spot. A lot of this side is going to get covered up with the new flowers, which I haven't even focused on yet. They are so pretty. She came up with some flowers to go with the Relics and Artifacts line, and they are beautiful. They're the ones I used on this box. They're so pretty. Okay, so I've got my mica flakes on there, and they are good to go. Okay, doesn't that look pretty? I love the mica flakes. It really just looks like a dragon scale to me. I don't know. I'm going to kind of blot off the excess. I don't want it to be too dimensional. So I'm just using my finger to kind of blot any really raised areas off of there. Okay, let me dump the rest back in here. The other day on my Ustream, I spilled an entire tub of glass glitter, and I needed it for the class too. So at first I started to freak out, and I was like, don't freak out, Miranda, just use what you have. Because it was just one of those moments where I'm like, ah, what am I gonna do? Okay, so we're gonna break out our flowers now while I let this dry. Let me make sure I don't have any running on the back, because it will adhere itself down to wherever I set it to dry. Okay, I'm gonna move that right over there. And this mat is getting quite dirty. In fact, I should just move it out of the way because it looks gross. Sorry, y'all. It does look pretty bad. Okay. So the flowers, let me grab my flower pack here. These are incredibly beautiful. These go with the relics and artifacts, and they are so pretty. You get these 4 flowers and then the bigger flower with the little spray, which is what we're going to be using along with one of the small ones. But these are so pretty, and these are made of like a material. I don't know what material, but these are fabric. They're not paper. They are a beautiful material. So when I got these, I was like, I wonder if I could like burn the edges without setting the whole thing ablaze and make it look pretty. They have these little spray parts coming out of it, and the leaves are so velvety and pretty. This little spray is beautiful. Thank you, Robbie, so much. Yes, I do have a giveaway on my... Oh, also, in case I forget to say, the one I'm making on the show, or the original one, it depends on which one looks better, I guess, is going to go in that prize package as well. So you'll win one of these boxes. I love Robbie's work too. Robbie is amazing. I can spot her projects like a mile away. She has such a distinct style, and it's beautiful. I love Robbie's work so much. All right, I'm going to be a good girl. Put these back in the package. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is add some clear gesso, because I'm going to add some alcohol inks and some other mediums to these sprays, this flower spray. So I want to make sure that it's prepared for that. I'm not going to have any weird warpage. I mean, they get a little out of shape when you wet them a lot, but they usually form back. I just gesso everything. I mean, do I really need to give a reason why? It's just a habit, okay? I gesso everything. I put clear gesso on everything. Or white, if need be. But I just like to gesso everything. I feel like everything's more forgiving with gesso on it. Like, if you just sprayed something on a non-gessoed surface, it's going to seep into that paper and be permanent. Whereas if you have gesso on there, you can probably work it out and get it off of there. All right, this flower we're going to end up cutting in half and using in 2 different spots on our box. I love to half my flowers and really make them stretch, because if you're doing flower clusters and tucking a lot of flowers in an area, if you separate them into halves, you can really stretch it out, which I'm no pro at doing flower clusters. Something is stuck to that one. Okay. All right, I'm going to add a little bit of alcohol ink to the center of this one. I just felt like it was too pretty, a little too pretty for this grungy box. So all I did is I kind of pulled back the outside layers, and I'm going to spray right in this part right here. It's formed together. There's something in there that keeps it into that shape, okay? So I'm just going to spray directly on there, and it's going to start spreading on the fabric, which is fine with me. I just kind of move it around and let it spread. And I'm going to grab my Worn Leather Color Bloom spray, if I can find it. I love the Color Bloom sprays. They're so amazing. They're beautiful. Make sure it's shook up really well, because I want that gold sparkle in there. The item number for this is 573829. No problem. Hello, Linda. Thank you for making it late or not. I know we have so much going on today. It's like hard to keep up. So I'm just glad that y'all attended. I really appreciate it. All right, I'm going to use another one of my paint brushes from Finnabair. First, I'm going to circle down on the bottom and make sure I have all that gold glitter lifted up. Then I'm going to get this excess off the top of my brush, because I don't want to hit the outside petals. Right, and I'm just going to go right into here with this Color Bloom. So I'm just kind of going down on the bottom, And then when you spray it, it just kind of really makes it move around, just like that. So you get this really grungy effect. And because it is fabric, it doesn't absorb the water like a paper would. So it kind of starts dripping out. The excess will start dripping out, which is fine. I just kind of blot it with a little rag, get all that excess water out. So we've completely changed the look of that flower with just one little easy step. It went from being super soft to having some grunge to it, which is what I want. In fact, while I'm here, I'm going to add a couple of little splats of the worn leather too. Just because we have it open. That's the only reason. Okay. I'm going to go on the sides of some of my leaves, like this. On the bottom of some of my leaves coming up, like that. Kind of coming up in the veined area, just like that. Just to kind of grunge up those leaves too. And again, add a little bit of water and it'll let it spread easier and soften it up too, okay? So it's got a dual purpose there. Okay, so now that looks much grungier than it did before, especially that little leaf right there. Just looks super grungy, which is what I want. And we're gonna add a little bit of white gesso on top of it when we're all said and done. Okay, so let me move that out of the way, clean up all this liquid on my mat really quickly. And I didn't do anything to the flower we're going to have. I'm just going to cut it right in half, right down the middle. And if you get upset when I dissect things, I'm so sorry. Some people are like, no, why is she cutting the leaves off or doing this? It's just a habit, y'all. I'm sorry. Okay. So I've got two pieces now to tuck into an area. That way it'll stretch. Okay, last step we're going to do on our box here is, this is going to be our top now because it is, no it's not, it's going to be the bottom. I'm lying. Okay, so right up here, when I was drying mine, I decided to play with some fire. Like, I know, sounds crazy, right? So I just took a lighter. You could use a tea light. In fact, let me grab my little tea light just to show y'all, because I think it is a little safer to use a candle as opposed to just a lighter. So I just lit a little tea light candle. Okay. And I just played around with kind of like singeing my edges just a little bit to kind of make them look like they've been burnt, because they are burnt. I'm making them look like it. They are getting burnt. Okay, so I'm just running the edges, and it's a little wet right now, so it's kind of drying it, but it will start to, it'll literally catch on fire if you wait too long. So I'm just singeing my edges a little bit here on the fire. I just wanted to play with fire, basically. That's my excuse, and I just thought it looked really cool because these are fabric. So the edge of that looks just really cool, I think, with it being burnt. Hopefully you guys can see that. It's like distressing it and adding color without any medium. You're just burning it. So do the same thing to the flower petals, just a few of them. I burnt the edges of those just a little bit, just because I thought it looked cool, and I was trying different techniques out. Don't hold it too long or it will catch on fire, which is fine. If you can blow it out quick enough, it's fine. So I'm just going around some of these outside petals, not all of them, just a few of them. And the tea light is definitely safer because you're not burning your finger on the metal. So I'm literally just burning my flower. Talk about abusing your Prima flowers. This is what I'm doing. And I got this idea from a girl on Pinterest. She didn't do it to flowers, she does it to book paper. It's called, you should definitely check out her blog. It's called Altered Alchemy, I think, and she does jewelry and stuff, and it is so pretty. So I got the idea from her. I was looking at her blog the night before, so I was like, I'm going to try to play with fire. You can smell it. Did you see that one catch on fire? It totally caught on fire, which is fine because now I really like the way it looks, okay? So we burnt the edges there. I don't know if you guys can see that, but just something fun to try. I mean, skip the step if you don't want to do it. It's not a big deal. The one thing that I did do, though, is I took my scissors and I kind of went right here like this and just kind of punctured a hole in the top of this box, because there's a layer of paper on here that is glued onto a box, and it's kind of hard to get it to come up. When I was using my heat tool, it came up very easily, of course, but because I don't have my heat tool, it's not wanting to. But when I had my heat tool, I just held it up there really close and it caused it to bubble up. So I'm basically just trying to get a tear. Let me move that before I catch everything on fire. I'm just trying to kind of tear up the paper in that section. Hopefully you can see that. So I'm just going in with my scissors since I don't have my heat tool. I'm just kind of pushing it in there. There we go. That was a good one. That kind of got it to rip up. Alright, so I'm just ripping up a little section over here and then using my fingers to kind of pull it down. I just wanted it to look really distressed and old and worn and just vintage. Alright, I'm going to use a little bit of white gesso because I kind of went a little too far in there. And I'm going to cover up that cardboard that's showing. I cut a little too low. If you use your heat gun, you will not get down to that layer. You'll just get down to where the adhesive comes up, and you won't have the little cardboard showing. So I'm just going to paint in there really quickly. It's got a little bit of color bloom on it, and that's fine. It just looks better this way instead of the way it was. Alright, so I'm going to come out on the edges with that same gesso. And then once again, we're going to burn the little edges of that paper, and it creates a really cool look. I was really happy with the way it looked. Alright, so I'm going to pick my tea light up for this, and I don't know if you guys can see, but I'm just, actually let me use the lighter, that way you guys can see. I'm just burning the edges of this paper, and I'm letting it smoke and just taking my time and burning the edges and just blowing it out, okay? So that's all I'm doing here. I just kind of wanted to play with fire this day, so that's what I did, y'all. Okay, so just kind of move up and down it, making sure you get all the edges, and that's it. Really simple. No more fire. Don't worry, I'm not going to catch anything on fire. Yeah, you could burn the entire box if you wanted to. Yes, Luthien is her name. She is so amazing, so inspiring. I love her work. I mean, she does the most beautiful jewelry and mixed media little shrines. It's amazing, the work she does. So anytime I'm like needing inspiration, I usually go to her blog. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see now that the edges of that paper are burnt. And I just think it looks pretty. If you don't want to burn it, just use like some black ink and you could probably mimic the whole effect. But to me, I was like, nah, I'm just going to use fire. You can also use a lighter to kind of remelt your beeswax. I had a little glob over there, so I'm just using that to move the beeswax around until I'm happy with it. Okay, there we go. Alright, now we're going to adhere our heart piece right to the center. It's ready to go in the center of our box. Okay, so first I'm going to add 3D matte gel for the most part, and then I'm going to add a little tidbit of hot glue right on the bottom, just so I know it'll stay still, because this is a very heavy piece. This heart is heavy. So I'm just dabbing a generous amount of gel medium right on the top. And the other day I was telling people I started using my fingers for this because I've ruined too many paintbrushes dipping it in the gel medium, so I'm trying to use my fingers. Okay, so I'm going to grab my hot glue gun, and basically all this is doing is keeping it in place. The hot glue will dry and it will keep this in place while the gel medium dries. So that way it stays where I want it. I need the edges to be free of glue so I can tuck things in. Okay, making sure I've got it the right way, and I do. So I'm going to place it right on top of this spade here. And make sure it's centered up in those lines. And just push down. And if you get any seepage over here, like the gel medium coming out, I just use a paintbrush and lift it out of there. It does dry clear, so it's okay if it does, but I just kind of dip it out like that. Okay, so we've got our heart on there. This is what it looks like so far with the heart. Okay, and now I added one of the new mechanicals from Prima. I love these so much. These are the Rustic washers, and mine are kind of a mess inside of the package, but I'm going to grab one of the smaller ones. Let's see here. We'll go with that one. I think that'll work right there. All right. I need to get this back in here the way it was, but for now it's just a mess. So these are the Rustic washers from the last release with Finnabair, and the item number is 963422. Yes, you've got, oh, Linda, you would love her blog. She's so amazing. So to get this to adhere in the center, I just used the wax, okay? I took a couple of pieces of the wax, because I already have wax on there, because I felt like I really didn't need any glue. So I just add a couple of pieces of the wax on there. And I'm going to melt that. And then I'm going to set this washer right on top of there after it's melted, okay? So again, heat tool is preferred. I don't have my heat tool, so we're using the wax itself. Just make sure not to burn yourself, please. I don't want anybody to message me and be like, thanks to you, I burnt myself. I don't want y'all to burn yourself. So the wax actually adheres perfectly well. So now we've got our little washer in the center there. And I'm just going to go around the edges there and make sure all of that excess beeswax is kind of moving out. And it looks really cool on top of the mica flakes. So I liked to put it on the mica flakes. So I'm just going around and melting the beeswax. Okay. And it looks really pretty on top of the mica flakes. I don't know if you can tell, but it just kind of adds another layer there. Got a little bit of gel medium poking out over here, so let me get that. All right, now we're going to add our flowers, which are burnt and pretty and ready to go. So I love this little spray now. It's just, look at my fingers. Oh my goodness, they are so grungy. I don't recommend to hot glue metals down. Sometimes I do on the show just because I'm running behind on time, but I really don't recommend it. I just don't feel like they'll hold well over time. I do it sometimes if it's like to paper and it's really lightweight, but for the most part I try not to. I try to use like the matte gel. Alright, so I'm just curling this up into a little spray, taking the bottom part and just kind of adding a little curl there. Okay. If anybody is logging on that I have not seen, I'm so sorry. Thank you for coming. Alright, so I'm going to add this right over here on the bottom portion of my box, okay? And I'm just moving this flower around to where I like it. These are all on wire, so you can kind of move them around how you want, okay? And it's not going to be exactly the same as my last one, which is fine with me because it doesn't have to be exact. You can't ever really get two sprays to place in the exact same spot. It's pretty much impossible. But I love these little sprays. Sandra really did such a good job with these. They match these relics so beautifully. So everything's a little wet right now, so it's kind of warping, but once your flower dries, it will look really good, and you can move it around and get it to, you know, fit how you want it to. Okay, so this is just going to wrap up on the side here. And I'm fiddling around with how it's going to look. Sorry, y'all. I could fiddle with sprays all day, I think, and not be happy yet. I could just keep moving them. Okay. Alright, that's going to have to do. So I am going to use the 3D matte gel again because it's my favorite adhesive, with a little bit of hot glue again, just to make sure it doesn't move while it's drying. So I just added a pretty generous glob down there. That's my technical word. I used a glob. So I'm going to go right here and just push that flower into the little glob I created, the little mound of matte gel. And that should hold it just fine, but just to be sure, I'm going to go in with my hot glue one more time, and I'm going to put it on the bottom of one of my leaves and tuck that leaf back on the heart like that. Okay, and then you can kind of play with your spray more and get everything to fit the way you want it to. Okay, and I think I'm happy with that. I'm going to add one more little drop of hot glue right here, just to make sure it's not going anywhere. And I'll use like scissors or tweezers or something to kind of push my petals down on it. Okay, So we have our little flowers coming off on the side here, and they're still wet, so I don't have them formed exactly how I want, which is completely fine. We can change it around when we're done, when it's all dried up. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to leave that for now, and we can come back to it. So those two little pieces of flowers that we halved, I'm going to tuck those in around the heart. Got some of the gel medium seeping out. Okay, so the first one we're going to tuck over here on the bottom part of the heart, just like that. Okay, so I'm going to use, let me make sure I got the right piece though. Yep, we're going to just tuck that in. We're going to use hot glue here because it dries really quickly and it's going on paper, so we don't have to worry about it moving too much. So as soon as I set it down, I use my scissors to really kind of like push the beginning of the flower up under the heart. That's why I didn't glue the edges of the heart down. So just use your scissors to kind of push it up under there, and then you can kind of start fluffing up your flower. Okay, so just like that. And then we've got our little wire stem over here, and I kind of move it on top of the flower. I'm going to add a little piece of hot glue here because this is wet and it's just not wanting to stick to that 3D matte gel. Okay, so we've got our little bottom part done there, and then what I did with the second half of this flower is, I don't know if you can tell here, but it's kind of coming off the side over here. And all I did was I adhered it to this part of the box. I haven't decorated the inside yet, but I'm going to. So it'll look all nice when it's all done. But for now, I'm just kind of gluing it up right there in that section. And I'm just going to glue it by using hot glue. Make sure I'm in the right spot. Right on the edge of the inside of the box. So I will be decorating the inside of the box. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. Alright, so you just want to kind of push it out as much as you can and just barely have it on that little ledge, okay? And then when you close it, it's just kind of poking out on the side over here, okay? So everything looks really old, really grungy, torn, ripped. It's been on fire, it's been everything, okay? So that's what the front of the box looks like so far. We're going to add some more of the beeswax at the very end. So I'm going to revisit that first piece that we did, and if you can see here, we've got some pieces of mica flakes coming off the side, and that is a super easy fix. You can either bend them upward and push them onto it, or just pull them away. Okay, so we're doing it just like that, and now we've got a really pretty little pendant to hang off the side of our box. Okay, so we are almost done, y'all. We've just got to tie our little bow over here and add our pendant. Okay, so I'm using the Gypsy cord. Let me grab the tag that has the item number on it really quickly. Yeah, a lot of people get confused when I say sprays, but I think that is, Robbie, is that actually the word for the flower sprays? Are they vines? Are they sprays? I don't know. I've always called them sprays. So Prima came out with this new Gypsy cord, which I love so much. They come in different colors. The one I'm using is called Florica, and the item number is 588106. Okay, and it's like the pink toned one. It's got some white in there, some blue in there, some brown, but I'm going to use one piece of the white. I think that was actually blue. I'm colorblind, excuse me. Let me grab a piece of the white. I love this Gypsy cord so much, and I'm ready to be done with at least one or two of these spools so I can alter them, because these spools are like a really hard wood, which are perfect for altering. Alright, so I'm going to grab that one, and I'm going to grab this really like a shabby, fuzzy pink ribbon. So it looks like that. It's got a lot of like tendrils coming off of it. It's really shabby. So I'm going to add that too. Alright. So I'm going to tie 2 bows with these, one at a time. Okay, thanks, Robbie. I call them sprays too. I've seen a lot of people that are like, sprays? What? You didn't use a spray? That's flowers. So making sure that was like the technical term. But yeah, vines, sprays, whatever you want to call them. It's my favorite Prima item of all time, the sprays. Any kind of vine or spray I love. So I'm just tying these in little bitty bows. Trying to make sure it's nice and tight. Okay. So that's what that one looks like so far. And they're really shabby, like I said. They have tons of little things coming off. If you don't like the way they look, you can cut off, well, if my scissors would work. Let's see here. Okay, there we go. You can kind of cut off some of the excess little hair pieces, I like to call them, coming off. It's up to you. So that's going to go over here on the side of our box. Let me hold it up. Okay. And I'm just going to glue this directly. I wanted to corset lace this, but it didn't quite work out that way. So I'm adding a bit of hot glue right below the ace because I wanted that ace to show, the A for the ace. And then I'm just letting this flow downward. I'm going to cut these at different sizes. I think this one's good to go. I might cut off that little part. Okay? And then we're going to tie this white one. It's basically like 2 strands of jute together. So I'm going to kind of, you know, unravel it a little bit before I tie it. It is hard to watch the chat and craft. It really is. It's so hard. I try, y'all, so if I don't see your stuff, I'm very sorry. Today, I feel like it's okay if I go over on my show, but most days I can't look up at the chat at all because I have to focus on my project. Okay, just tying little bows here, and I am happy with that. And I like to twist these, kind of making a more fun look to the ends of my bow instead of just, you know, a stick straight piece. So I'm unraveling again, and then I just kind of play with how they look. I like to curl them around things, paint brushes, my finger, just to get like a really pretty look going on. Okay. So again, I'm going to tie this one over here, or glue this one over here on top of the pink one. But first, before I forget, I'm going to use the metal piece that these hook to, and I'm going to glue it up under right there, okay? So I'm going to use hot glue just because I'm on here, but I will go in after the show and pop it off real quick and use 3D matte gel. But it would take forever to dry. So for now, we're just going to use that. And if you push the ribbon down on there, it will help it adhere well. Then we're just going to place the white one right on top. So you've still got movement. This moves around from side to side and dangles. But we just glued that metal part on there. Okay. So I'm gluing the white one right on top. And sometimes I'll even like put little bitty glue spots where I want my ribbon to kind of sit at. I'm weird like that. I like it to kind of sit a certain way. I don't always do it, but sometimes I do. Okay, and I'm going to kind of have that one underneath. And then I'm going to glue this one as well. Just so I can kind of control how the ribbon is laying down. I've never been really good at using ribbon. I know a lot of you ladies are beautiful ribbon makers and you can do really pretty projects with it. I've never really been good with using the ribbon. Okay, so now we've got our little piece over here. My glue didn't work. Let me try that again. Use my scissors to stick it on there. Okay. I could fiddle with this ribbon all day, I swear. Okay, so we've got our little side part done, and this does dangle and move around. Okay, this is the front part so far, and the last step, I think, let me look at this and make sure. Well, we got 2 more steps. First, we're going to add a little bit more beeswax, which is going to be difficult because I'm grabbing the wrong thing. I'm grabbing art stones. Good job, Miranda. The beeswax, I'm going to try and add a little bit more coming out of like this ripped fired area, a little bit more on there. I even added it down on some of the petals, which I don't really know how I'm going to get it to melt. On last month's Ustream, I did use beeswax on my flowers and showed how pretty that looks, so I guess I don't really have to worry about doing it again. It does look really pretty. You can check that video out, but it looks so pretty if you put wax over your flowers. It just looks beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to add a little bit more of that, and then we're going to add gesso, and that's it, y'all. So I know I'm going over a little bit, but bear with me. And then I'll look up and see if anybody has any questions or anything. Let's see. I love this wax so much. I just think it's so pretty. I think I'm going to be putting wax on everything now. Okay, I'm going to go back on my heart again. I'm so glad I thought of this iron, because I was like, what am I going to do? I don't have a heat tool. In such a bad situation. What am I going to do? I wanted to watch Sharon's show and not have to run 30 minutes away to my Michael, so I'm glad I got to. Okay, if you can add it to your flowers, I promise you it will make such a difference. It's going to look beautiful if you can add it to your flowers. Like, you can, hopefully y'all can see the difference if you add it to your flowers. This is the one I made originally. So it brightens them up. It adds this really pretty color to them. Okay, last step is we're going to use our heavy white gesso to kind of complement certain areas and add a little bit more grunge to it. So the item number for the Art Basics Heavy White Gesso is 961442. I love all of Finnabair's line. Yeah, Prima's gonna have to make wax now. If it was up to me, Prima would make wax and like their own take on alcohol inks, because I swear I think I use alcohol inks on every project. It's just a habit. I love it. And I feel like I'm betraying Prima when I use it, but I love alcohol inks. Okay, so I'm taking the heavy gesso and I'm swiping off a lot of it and making sure just the end of my brush is covered. Okay, and I'm going to go up here on the top, and I'm literally just swiping like a big, I'm going to use another really technical word here, a big gunk of white gesso. Okay, so I don't know if you can see that in the background. And then I'm going to add one spray of water just to kind of move it around a little bit, and adding the gesso. So we're going to do this same step just randomly throughout our piece. I'm going to add a little bit over here. And I use my paintbrush to kind of guide it along and get it to go how I want it to. Okay, so we've got the top part right there now. And I'm going to add it onto my relics piece here. And I'm going to have it coming from the top. And again, I'm just using like the very end of my paintbrush here to do this. And I'm going to kind of tuck it into this little recessed area and bring it down my relic piece. And I'm going to add gesso again. And let me get the excess water up before it spreads everywhere. Okay. So again, I'm just going to keep adding it until I like the look. And as it dries, you get really cool effects. You can take off excess. You can even go over some of your mulberry flakes with it, and it kind of highlights them. I don't want to do all of them, but some of them I want to highlight. The washer, it can kind of highlight that in certain areas. Let's see. Let's go on the side here. Okay, just like that. So I'm making it look like it's dripping, basically. That's what we're going for. Now, when I had my heat tool, I set the heat tool so close to this paint that it bubbled. And I think most of you know what I'm talking about. If you put your heat tool for too long in a certain area, it starts to make the paint bubble. And that's what I wanted. So that's what I did with my heat tool. So I'm putting it on the bottom there as well. Okay. I'm just making sure I don't leave anything out. I'm going on my sides and doing it over here too. I just want everything to be kind of uniform. And then I'm going to get most of the gesso off, and then I'm just going to randomly hit my flowers, going for the tops of them mainly, and my leaves. And it really brings out the veins in the leaves and kind of covers up a lot of the dark areas, so it looks really cool. Hopefully y'all can see that. Just adding it to there and adding it to my spray and the little green stem that comes off of it too. Okay, just like that. So pretty much add gesso everywhere, basically. Go crazy with your gesso, I should have said. Alright, let me add a little bit more up here. You can water down your gesso and it'll flow really easy. That's a really good tip. I guess I should have mentioned that. It'll flow a lot better if you add water. Alright, so that is basically it. I'm going to highlight one more area. And I might highlight a few areas on my little pendant here. It'll also just soften up the color as well. Okay, so let me look up and see if anybody has any questions. I have another project showing all the cards in the box, which will be shown, oh goodness, I don't honestly know when I'm going to be able to show it, but hopefully soon. Hopefully I can show it soon because it's a really cool project, but it's inspired by someone else. And I try not to do things like that, but this is like something I've wanted to try for forever. And I definitely made it my own. I didn't copy it, you know, like outright, but totally inspired by her idea. It's beautiful. She did it like 4 years ago, so I've been debating for like 4 years whether to make one. Okay, so let me set all of this to the side and see if anybody has any questions so far. Hopefully you guys learned a few things. I'm over by like 20 minutes, so I can't show any extra fun techniques. I did use, I forgot that. I did use the foil though. I feel like Sharon just showed so much on the foil that I really don't need to. But I did use some foil, and I'm just going to cut a little piece off right here, straight out of the packaging. And this is the, let's see here, the 585648. This is the something berry one. It's like all different colors of pink. So I basically just took it randomly and scratched it on there and I just did that upside down. Genius, Miranda. Just scratched it on there and randomly added some of the foil like that. And if you don't like the look of it, you're working on beeswax again, so you can kind of remelt it and get some pretty cool effects. Like it melts the foil and looks really cool. I love the way that looks. So you can just kind of scratch that on randomly wherever you want to. I just kind of let it stick where it wanted to and didn't worry about it too much. But it was a really fun way just to add a little bit more pink to the box. So I'm just using a scrap piece here and pushing it all around. And that is pretty much it, y'all. Let me see who is up next again. I think I just told y'all and I forgot already because my brain is just not working. Robbie is up next. The amazing Robbie, who is my wonderful mod today. She is up next with her class shawl. So let me hold these both up and show you. So, like I said, my giveaway on my blog, you can pick which one you want. This was the one made off of the show. And then this was the one made on the show. When this one dries, it'll look more similar to this one. But you can pick which one you want, along with all the other goodies that I showed you earlier. I so appreciate all of you coming out. I've got a ginormous mess to clean up, like huge. It's crazy how messy I get during these shows. But I really appreciate you coming out. I hope everybody is participating in the challenges. Let's see, is what Prima 2? Let me look at that. The pink foil, yes, the foil is Prima 2. Sharon just did a Ustream on these foils. She showed like, oh my goodness, like 10 different really cool techniques on using this foil. It's super, super fun stuff. So the foil is amazing. Okay, Diva. Either one. Hopefully y'all learned something. The whole point of this was like just try something else. Try something that hasn't been done before. Look around and see if there's anything in your stash that, you know, you want to play with, and see how it looks, because I had no idea how the beeswax would look on here. It was a total experiment playing with the fire, but I like the way it turned out, and it inspired me to do another project similar. So I hope you guys got some inspiration to just step out of your comfort zone and try some fun new techniques. Okay, I don't see any questions. Thank you, Robbie, for your wonderful modding skills, and thank you all so much for tuning in. And up next, in about 30 minutes, Robbie will be up. So have a lovely day, everyone. Enjoy your National Scrapbooking Day, and I will see you guys later. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm glad you guys learned. That makes me feel like I did my job well. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Okay, let me hit stop record and